You are lying on your back while a man studies your arms and legs like a carpenter checking a crooked table. Around you, a crowd leans forward. Someone is selling food. Children stand on boxes for a better view. The executioner lifts a heavy iron bar, but he is not aiming for your head. That would be too quick. He is aiming lower, because the government has decided your death should include instructions, entertainment, and several deeply unpleasant stages. Human history contains thousands of punishments, and comparing them is a terrible little competition. But 3 stand out because they were not simply designed to kill. They were built to stretch fear, pain, humiliation, and public spectacle as far as the human body could carry them. Number 3. Crucifixion. You are a prisoner in the Roman world. Maybe you are enslaved. Maybe you joined a rebellion. Maybe you are a foreigner who picked the wrong fight with the empire. Whatever happened, Rome does not just want you dead. Rome wants you displayed. Before the cross, you may be stripped and beaten. Then comes the walk. In many Roman executions, the condemned person carried the crossbeam through streets, filled with people who already knew where the procession was going. This was not private punishment. Privacy would have ruined the advertising. At the execution site, soldiers fasten you to the wood with ropes, nails, or both. The exact method and shape of the cross varied. The basic idea did not. Your body was lifted where everyone could see it, and then you were left there. Crucifixion was not built around one clean injury. It forced the body into a position it could not maintain. Your arms burned, your shoulders strained, your legs cramped. Every attempt to lift yourself for easier breathing bought a few seconds of relief, and then created more pain. Heat, cold, insects, thirst, blood loss, shock, and exhaustion all joined the project. Rome believed strongly in teamwork. Death could take hours, sometimes longer. Soldiers could speed things up by breaking the legs, making it harder for the victim to push upward. Or they could simply wait. The victim remained alive, visible, and helpless while the crowd watched the empire win an argument. Crucifixion was especially associated with slaves, rebels, non-citizens, and people considered beneath the protection of Roman status. Citizens were usually spared this kind of death, unless the crime was extraordinary. Equality before, the law was still undergoing technical difficulties. The most famous crucifixion is that of Jesus, but thousands of others disappeared without names. After the revolt led by Spartacus, ancient accounts describe thousands of captured rebels crucified along the road from Capua toward Rome. Imagine traveling that road and seeing cross after cross. You would understand the message before anyone explained it. Crucifixion takes 3rd place because it turned dying into a public warning that could last all day. Unfortunately, Europe later found a way to add heavy machinery. Number 2. The breaking wheel. You are dragged into a town square in medieval or early modern Europe. In front of you is a large wooden cartwheel. For one hopeful second, it looks ordinary. Then you notice the iron bar. The breaking wheel was used in several parts of Europe, especially German-speaking lands and France. Details changed, but the central idea remained brutally simple. The condemned person's limbs were stretched over gaps, blocks, or spaces between the spokes. Then the executioner struck the arms and legs with a hammer, club, iron bar, or sometimes the wheel itself. This required skill, which is not comforting. Court sentences could specify the number of blows and where they should land. A less severe version might begin higher on the body, so death came sooner. A harsher sentence could begin at the legs and work upward, preserving consciousness longer. Apparently, smashing a person into pieces needed an official difficulty setting. After the bones were broken, the victim's limbs could be woven through the spokes. The wheel might then be raised on a pole. Sometimes a final blow or strangulation ended the suffering. In other cases, the person was left alive for some time. The wheel was not only about pain. It changed the human body into a sign. Travelers could see the raised wheel and understand that someone had challenged the law, the ruler, or the social order, and had been physically rearranged for it. Popular descriptions sometimes make every wheeling sound identical, as though Europe had one punishment manual shared by every kingdom. It did not. Procedures and attempts at mercy varied. Some condemned people received a quick killing blow. Others did not. But the punishment is well documented, and it survived far later than many people realize. Rare cases continued into the 19th century. People were using modern roads, reading newspapers, and conducting scientific experiments, while courts were still sentencing human beings to be broken on wagon wheels. Progress has always been excellent at arriving in one room, while completely missing the room next door. The breaking wheel takes second place because it combined controlled injury, public display, and the possibility of a slow death. But number one removed even the comfort of lying down. Number 1. Impalement. You are standing beside a sharpened wooden stake taller than you are. Nearby workers plant more stakes into the ground. The executioner begins preparing yours, because the goal is not to stab you and finish the job. The goal is to raise you on it without killing you too quickly. Impalement appeared in different cultures and periods, so there was no single universal method. In its most feared form, a stake entered the body and was carefully guided to avoid immediate death. The victim was then lifted upright or left at an angle while gravity did the rest. Executioners could shape, smooth, and grease the stake. A blunt point might be used because a sharp one could cut through vital areas too quickly. Imagine discovering that the person killing you has chosen safer equipment. Death might come from internal injury, bleeding, shock, thirst, or exposure. Depending on the method, it could take hours or longer. The raised victim remained visible to anyone approaching the city, fortress, or road. The punishment was a message. The human being was simply the stationary. Impalement is strongly associated with the Ottoman world and with Vlad III of Wallachia, better known as Vlad the Impaler. Vlad used terror as a weapon during the violent politics and wars of the 15th century. Accounts describe fields of stakes and Ottoman prisoners displayed near his capital. But the legend needs a warning label. Stories about Vlad were spread by enemies, political rivals, frightened witnesses, and early printed pamphlets that discovered something publishers still understand: horror cells. Claims that he killed tens of thousands by impalement are widely repeated, but the exact numbers are disputed and were almost certainly exaggerated. The method was real. Vlad's brutality was real. The giant totals are much less secure. Exaggeration was unnecessary. Even a few rows of bodies on stakes would have done the job. An approaching army did not need to count them and prepare a report. It only needed to understand that the ruler ahead was willing to turn prisoners into part of the landscape. That is why impalement takes the top position. Crucifixion suspended you in a slow public death. The wheel broke you and displayed what remained. Impalement used your own weight to continue the punishment while holding you above the ground like a warning flag. The worst part was not only the pain, it was the planning. Someone chose the location. Someone prepared the wood. Someone wrote the sentence. Someone decided whether death should come quickly or slowly. And a crowd arrived early enough to get a good place. History's worst punishments were rarely explosions of uncontrolled rage. They were organized. They had rules, tools, workers, and an audience. That may be the darkest detail of all. Human beings did not merely invent terrible ways to kill each other. They scheduled them.